Hello, and welcome to my video about the libraryofbabel.info. My name is Jaxson, and this is going to be a pretty thoughtful and heady discussion, so any opinions expressed within this video are my own and are totally correct because they're mine and, whatever. All the default kind of stuff. Forgive me for having sort of crappy audio quality. I know there's a hiss if I'm quiet. That has to do with the fact that I am poor and don't have a microphone that is very good. Okay, so if you follow me on Instagram, which if you're watching this video you probably already do because you're probably a personal friend or family member of mine. Even though I've been on YouTube for 10 years, that's pretty much all I use it for, is like video journaling kind of stuff, which Instagram sort of has become my mini video journal. And on that video journal, over the last 2 days, I've been playing with what is essentially a piece of software called the libraryofbabel.info, and you can go there right now on the website and just look it up and play with it yourself. But this is going to be kind of more of a discussion about maybe the philosophy. I'm not a programmer. I don't know how it works. I mean, I know enough to sort of understand generally how it works, but I couldn't like teach you, for example, how to make something like that. So this is all just me talking about it because I think it's awesome, and you're here because you think it's awesome, or somebody sent you this video or linked it to you because they want you to think that it's awesome also. So share in my excitement in it. Okay, so the Library of Babel. I will say Babel a lot because that's just, sorry, that's just a thing that's gonna happen. Let's do this and get rid of that. Okay, so this, let me just go back. So this here is the website, libraryofbabel.info. And there's all sorts of information on this, including the about, which we are going to read sort of right now, just to give you a base idea of what the freak is happening on this crazy website. The Library of Babel is a place for scholars to do research, for artists and writers to seek inspiration, for anyone with curiosity or a sense of humor to reflect on the weirdness of existence. In short, it is just like any other library. If completed, it would contain every possible combination of 1,312,000 characters, including lowercase letters, space, comma, and period. Thus, it would contain every book that has ever been written, and every book that could ever be, including every play, every song, every scientific paper, every legal decision, every constitution, every piece of scripture, and so on. At present, it contains all possible pages of 3,200 characters, so 3,200 characters on a single sheet, on a single page, which comes to about 10 to the 4,677 books. Since I imagine the question will present itself in some visitors' minds, a certain amount of distrust of the virtual is inevitable. I'll head off any doubts. Any text you find in any location in the library will be in the same place. Will be in the same place in perpetuity. We do not simply generate and store books as they are requested. In fact, the storage demands would make that impossible. For every possible permutation of letters is accessible. Every possible permutation of letters is accessible at this very moment in one of the library's books, only waiting discovery. We encourage those who find strange... Wow, I don't know what that word is. Jonathan, you freak me out. Among the variations of letters tried to... Okay, so blah blah blah. So it's a computer program, right? It's a computer program written by this fellow, Jonathan Basile. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. You guys can follow him here on Twitter if you want. He complimented my goatee earlier. Like the goatee. Love the glasses. Thanks. I've never met him, so that's just one of those cool Twitter interactions. So he wrote this thing. So if you want to tweet to him or ask him questions or whatever, right? It's on his page here. Okay. So it's a computer program that has written down in text form in English every possible combination of letters, period, comma, and space. Every single possible combination of those things are together somewhere in this ridiculous library thing. And it's sort of like so I guess I'll go back to the whole kind of idea. The basic idea of the thing is that it's a philosophical question, right? So if every book that could ever be written in the universe exists somewhere, then incredibly significant information is contained within those books, because it would be able to, like, quite literally tell the future. Like, in this library that I'm looking at right now is an exact description of 410 pages, because that's the maximum limit. I don't know the programming stuff, but so on this, all the books have 3,200 characters on a page, and there's 410 pages in each book. So there's one book. I mean, there's bajillions. The numbers are so large. There's, like, we'll just say trillions, right? Because that's, people understand, like, if you have $1 billion, you can spend $1 million all the time and not even, like, chunk away at it. But this is like trillions, right? So you can spend billions of dollars and not even chunk away at your money, right? So we'll just say trillions, but it's so much more than that. So there's trillions of books, and one of those books just so happens, just by coincidence, essentially, or the fact that maybe it's inevitable in that sort of universe, and that's sort of like where the philosophy part of your mind starts going crazy. There's an exact description. The date, the time, the people that will be around. There's an exact description of your death right now on this website. Right now. And if you knew how to look for that information, which of course is impossible, so it's kind of just fun to think about. But if you just happen across it in the astronomically large number of books that are included on this thing, you would know the exact time and date and who's be around and whether or not it was painful or whether or not it was scary. You would know exactly how you died if you could only find it in this library, because it's here. It's 100% written right now in this thing. Every single combination of letters that could make up anything or not is also in here. So just for the sake of example, and I've done this on, this is what I was doing on Instagram the other day. I was just coming up with stuff and, like, searching for it. And that'll sort of lead me into another thing that I was talking about. So I'm going to go to search. I'm going to search for my birthday. Jaxson was born on May 26th, oops, space 6, at 5th, in 1980, I can spell words, 1987, to Jeff and Cindy. Okay, so that's just some information about me. I was born May 26, 1987, and my parents are Jeff and Cindy, right? So if I search that, it comes up, and it's like, here's a bunch of details, right? So here's an exact match, where the only thing on that page is this phrase, right? So searching the library, I should probably go back a bit. So I'm searching the library now. It's coming up with, it's searching this stuff. We can have a space before and space after, sort of make it a bit cleaner if you want to do cooler stuff with this later. Right, so this exact phrase comes up with a bunch of different kinds of titles, right? So there's a title search. So the title of this book, right, in this location, and this huge piece of hash code, hex text, I don't know what the frig it is, shows you where in the library it's located, right? Because you couldn't use, the Dewey Decimal System or, some other organizational library thing for an infinite spanning system of books, right? You'd have to have a much more concise way of categorizing it, because it's, essentially infinite. So, using computer text like hash codes, that kind of stuff. Right? So there's a title of a book. Let's see more title matches, right? So there are 29 to the 5, which just, I don't even know if I can do that on a standard calculator. It's a scientific calculator. Can I even do that on a scientific? Yeah, XY. So 29 to the 5. Alright, so there, in this library right now, there are 20,511,149 books with the title Jaxson was born on May 26, 1987 to Jeff and Cindy. Right, those are the titles of the books. These are their locations. You can scroll essentially forever because you're not gonna scroll 20 million and a half books, right? But here they are. Here's their locations. You can click on them and actually like go, right? So this is the first page of that book, right? Just a random assortment of letters and spaces and commas and periods. But that's how it works, right? So out of those 20 million books, one of them, probably has some really interesting words in it, some really interesting like collections of things. And you can scroll through this, and because there's so many more ways to not make a word, there's like essentially infinitely many more ways to not make a word than there is to make a word. The vast majority of everything in these books is just nonsense. But some of them aren't, right? So that's pretty cool. You can actually see in the library where it's located, represented by a graphical sort of thing, right? So this huge piece of code here kind of tells you where in the actual like building of the library you are. And then on volume 32, on shelf 1 of wall 2, on in volume 21, there you see, right there, Jaxson was born on May 26, whatever. Okay, so that's just some cool stuff. Going back through the thing, that's just one example. Right? And those are just the titles, right? I just did the title search. There's also like ones that will come up with other random English words. For example, this page is just ridiculous like sets of English words. Hyperextend, I don't even think, some of these aren't even words, right? Hologines, if that's a word, you can, right? Unskillfulness, and then in the middle of this nonsense is the phrase Jaxson was born on May 26, 1987. And the exact matches are my favorite. So more exact matches, 10 to the 29 possible exact matches. So that's 10 or 1 with 29 zeros behind it. It's a lot of zeros. There are that many books with at least one page that has not infinite, but a ton of spaces, and then just the phrase Jaxson was born, and then more spaces until the very end of the page. Right? It's crazy. Oh, there's a search. Yeah, search options takes you back to here. And then so there's even more books. 29 to the 3,141, which I couldn't even begin to tell you how insane a number that is, but we'll try it. 3141. My poor calculator. So yeah, this, I don't even know how to read this. Just so many. Essentially infinite, completely unknowable to the human mind. That's how many books there are with this phrase inside a random string of other like text. Right? So then it starts to become kind of insane to sort of think about the fact that everything that ever could be written down is included here on this website, right? In the library of Babel. Babelfish. Babelfish. So, right? So like, do you want to build a snowman? Ten to the 29. Exact matches. So this phrase, do you want to build a snowman, from the Disney movie Frozen, has already been written down trillions of times before Disney ever even thought of coming up with that combination of letters to build into words, to build into a sentence, to build into meaning, right? So a computer doesn't have an intention, and that's sort of where the more of this philosophy kind of discussion is going to go. A computer didn't intend to evoke emotions from human beings by collecting these letters and spaces together. So then, does it matter? Is that important for the human experience to, like, you know, like if I were to write a phrase, which I did write a phrase on my Instagram thing. Right, so whoops, this is my stuff. I just want to see my page, right? This is going to be a bit of a trip, so I'm going to have a couple videos, so just bear with me. A dude wrote a computer program that has written everything that could ever have been written in the English language, ever. And I'm going to write something and we're going to search for it. The phrase I have chosen to write reads, "And once as the eagles flew through their most trepidatious dreams, they found as many do the selves that they perceived were lost to the sands of time and the infinite vacuum of space." So that's the phrase that I just made up right now. We're going to search for it. So at the top of the page there you can see it's showing 20 out of 10 to the 29 possible exact matches. One I chose is the book titled UOV, etc. at the top there. On page 407. So at the top of the page. So on page 407 of that book, there's nothing on that page except for that totally random phrase that I just made up right now for something to search for. I'd also like to point out that trepidatious isn't a word, and it still got it. The word is trepidation. So if your mind isn't completely blown yet, allow me to explain the implications of that. So the most significant thing that you will ever write or ever read or that your great-grandchildren will ever think of has already been written trillions of times. So if your mind isn't So I think I'm just going to make a YouTube video explaining the Library of Babel in a bit more detail, because I already found my last Instagram post, the one where I explained that everything's already been written trillions of times. Here it is, already written trillions of times. So YouTube video incoming. So I think... Right, so that's the prep that led up to this video. Right, and the reason that I went back and showed that Instagram stuff is because there's that intention, right? Like the artist's intention. Sort of a common, sort of artsy, philosophical question to sort of answer. Like, you know, if the intention behind a work is to hurt people, but it ends up inspiring, you know, a lot of people to do great things, like, does the artist's intention really matter? You know, that kind of thing. So this is a computer, right? A computer has no intention, at least not yet. But so for now, it doesn't have an intention, but it can write beautiful stuff, just beautiful stuff. Like, I don't know, let's just, like, I love my parents and the color orange. The autumn. I'm gonna spell stuff wrong. It'll still get it. It doesn't matter. The autumn leaves. Because it's just, you know, a random assortment of letters. The autumn leaves fall from their trees into the frozen pond. I cannot type. My keyboard is not in the right place. In the frozen ponds of despair. They die as they... I don't know why this is being so emo. They die as they freeze. And the children who once played... Oops. In the piles of their corpses have aged and passed away. Okay, so there's some random stuff I just thought of right now. I was trying to invoke an emotional feeling of sadness and like winter coming and like the ultimate inevitability of death. You know, significant things for the human mind to try and deal with. Right? So there's a lot of stuff, just random. It's not good, but whatever. Right? So there it is. Search for that thing. Exact matches. Bajillion. I don't even know what kind of number that is, like I was explaining. 1 to the 29 zeros. So, what, 1,000,000 is 6 zeros. So, 29 divided by 6 is 4.8. So, million, you know, like, I don't even know if I did the math right, but whatever. I'm not a mathematician. I'm a thinker of thoughts. This first one was just nonsense. I was just trying to get something going in my mind. So yeah, the color orange associated with autumn led to thinking like, okay, here's some significant stuff that I can write. I love my parents in the color orange, but that's unnecessary. The autumn leaves fall from their trees into the frozen ponds of despair. They die as they freeze, and the children who once played in the piles of their corpses have aged and passed away. Right? So the computer wrote that. This was already been written. It already exists. This phrase that I just made up just now, it already exists billions and trillions of times. Right? So I thought of it. I don't think anybody else in the history of the universe has written the phrase Gungorpatad the Squizlack Grumzized down the road and worked his Flazadorp against a white picket fence. End of 29 possible exact matches of the phrase Grunkhood. I can't even say it because it's such nonsense. Gungorpatad the Squizlack grumzized down the road and Wurtgunt his Flazadorp against a white picket fence. Nobody's ever written that phrase before. I am the author of that phrase. However, it's already been written down trillions of times. So can I really take credit for that phrase? It already exists. It exists so many times that you could repeat it to the point of meaninglessness inside the fact that it was already meaningless to begin with. But you get my point, right? Like I'm a writer by sort of intention, right? Like I write movie scripts. Like that's what I try to do for money. I'm not very successful at it, but whatever. I like writing. I go and watch a lot of movies. I think about the way that movies are written. I'm often talking to my friends about how I don't like movies that are adapted from books because the books were already written, and a script and a book are different types of art and storytelling, and I like the script that was written as a script to begin with, because it just works better as a movie, right? It's like a visual poem that you gotta work at to good. But so as a writer, the best script I could ever write, I could ever think of, like the one that would get me an Oscar every year from now until the day I die, if I just re-released it every year because it's that good of a movie. It's already written down in here somewhere. It's already been created. It's just buried under piles of nonsense. Under piles of, like, text like this. Where it's just like a whole bunch of nonsense. And then this. But because the Library of Babel contains all books that are 410 pages long with 3,200 characters on each page, one of those books contains, the entirety of that script that I'm talking about. Just like the ultimate best script. The ultimate truths of the universe would be revealed in, all that kind of nonsense. But, so there's another thing too that I did sort of want to touch on. I'm not going to get too into it because YouTube video and stuff on the internet and whatever else. Every piece of scripture, right? So the texts that were written by philosophers and religious, people came up with a collection of letters, for a collection of words, for a collection of sentences, to a collection of paragraphs, to a collection of chapters, to a collection of, books that tell people how to live their lives and why. All of those are already included inside of this book. Inside of this library, I mean. Each book, everything that, and sort of the extent of that is, of course, that if there's 3,200 letters on a page and 410 pages, there's no reason why you couldn't just, get 2 books and, say that they were one book, or change the number of pages, or whatever else. And it only uses commas and periods, so there's no questions, like you can't ask a question in the Library of Babel as it is right now. But this is just a computer program, right? Like the real Library of Babel doesn't exist here in reality. This is just a piece of it based on those rules. The real Library of Babel, of course, is truly infinite, and you could never actually build it, even with computer software. And it would contain not just stuff in English, it would contain it in every language, including math, which, is sort of another language that we use to describe the things around us and that kind of stuff. And there's a whole other philosophy you can get into there where does math even exist? Most people would say yes, because we made it, but other people would argue that no, it doesn't exist. It's something that we came up with, like language, to sort of apply to other things to sort of explain them. And so it just gets crazy, right? It's nuts. It's nuts. I hope you understand how nuts this is. It's nuts. It's crazy nutso. I've been talking for 30 minutes, and it feels like I've been talking for like 5 minutes. But right, so I guess that's everything that I sort of wanted to touch on. I mean, like any philosophy discussion, you bring up about 1,000 different questions and you answer none of them. So, so there's that, right? Like there's all the stuff that I sort of wanted to talk about. If I write a script now, and it's the best script in the universe, and I win an Oscar every year, and I re-release the movie every year, and that movie wins an Oscar every year, whatever, like it's the best thing ever written. It changes people's lives. People, willingly give up war and whatever it is. You could write the best thing ever, and it's already written in here, right? It's already written on this website So do I get credit for that? I mean, it already exists. The potential was there. I had a history teacher once actually say something really clever to me that sort of provoked this idea a long time ago in my head. We were taking a test in history class, and I forgot a pen. I forgot a writing tool, because, you know, crazy me forgets stuff. Like, who goes to class to take a test and doesn't have a pen or a pencil? So anyway, the teacher was like, you give me a pen, we'll use this one, for example, because I like these pens. The Bic color pens, good for taking notes. He handed me the pen, and when he handed it to me, he looked me in the eye and he's like, now Jackson, hidden within the ink of that pen is all of the answers to this test. You just need to figure out how the ink comes out on the page. He didn't say all that. I can't remember exactly what I said. It was something basically like, you know, all the answers to the test are included in this pen. Here you go. That's kind of what he said. And I was like, I just sat there for the first like 15 minutes of the test, like staring at the pen like, that's true. All of the answers to this test I'm about to take are somewhere within this pen. I just need to figure out the pattern and the movement of the rollerball tip to make the ink come out in such a way that happens, that all the answers, you know, are correct on the test. That was in high school, and I passed high school, so apparently I also passed the test. I honestly don't remember. But yeah, the potential for everything, at least the description of everything, is contained within a pen. So within every pen is the Library of Babel. And if you want to play around with the Library of Babel by Jonathan Basile, I'm sorry, I'll just say Basile. Jonathan Basile, you can feel free to do so. It's just free on the internet. You can play around with, you know, possible permutations of poetry that you've come up with. And just, yeah, enjoy your life, I guess. Science and art together. Confused. I'm gonna go now. I've sort of rambled for the last little bit. But there you go. This is my video on the Library of Babel. It's really long. I'm not gonna edit it because that would take even longer, and I'm lazy today. I'm gonna go play some video games because that's what I do instead of writing scripts. Thanks for watching. I love you guys. I hope you had a wonderful time. I will see you whenever I see you next. This is my Halloween costume, just in case you were wondering, because I've never had this before in any of my videos. I caught a glimpse of myself and decided I looked like Shaggy. I was walking through Walmart thing, and so I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do a low-level all-month Halloween costume where I'm just kind of look like Shaggy all the time. I hope this wasn't too distracting. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful time. I will see you when I see you next. I've already said all this stuff. Bye! This is an ink cartridge to a pen. The pen is mightier than the sword.